For the past 7 years, Jeddah Tower has stood alone in the desert like a monument to the greatest failure in construction history. The abandoned site, the rusting cranes, and the rumors that this mega-project would remain buried forever beneath the scorching sand had become reality in the eyes of the public. And yet, right now, everything has changed at a pace that has stunned engineers around the world every 72 hours. One new floor rises, pushing the structure closer to the stratosphere. Jeddah Tower is accelerating toward the 1,000-meter mark, something never before achieved in the history of human architecture. How do you restart a megastructure that has been frozen for nearly a decade under extreme heat without causing a catastrophic structural failure? Few people still remember that before it began accelerating the way it is now, this tower had once stopped halfway. In the year 2018, when the whole world was waiting for it to surpass Burj Khalifa and become the tallest structure on the planet, everything suddenly stopped at floor 63. A major financial and corruption investigation led to the arrest of the people at the top of the project. Immediately, the flow of billions of dollars was cut off in a single night. But the money problem was only the surface. Stopping at floor 63 pushed the tower into an extremely dangerous technical condition with no precedent. The tower's load-bearing core, made of concrete and steel, was left exposed to the open air, directly facing salt-laden air blowing in from the Red Sea. That salt vapor is the #1 enemy capable of destroying steel structure from the inside. During 7 years of abandonment, salt vapor seeped through microscopic openings in the concrete to attack the ultra-high-strength steel bars. If the steel rusts, it expands and cracks the concrete apart, causing the entire structure, weighing hundreds of thousands of tons, to lose its most basic load-bearing capacity. Leading construction experts around the world warned that this tower could collapse under its own weight if it was not dealt with immediately. Old management methods based on centralized power had completely failed in the face of political instability. At that moment, the tower was seen as a giant technical corpse lying exposed under the desert heat. But when everyone believed this would become the most expensive pile of scrap in history, an extremely risky rescue plan was quietly put into motion. What they did next to check the safety of this block of concrete will leave you stunned by the sophistication of modern technology. At the beginning of the year 2025, a major decision was made. More than $2 billion was poured in to revive this project that had once been treated as a failure. This was not an ordinary construction job, but the largest emergency resuscitation campaign ever carried out in the building industry. Before placing even 1 more meter of new concrete above floor 63, the engineers had to make sure the entire old body of the tower was still capable of carrying the enormous weight that was coming next. They assembled a fleet of more than 100 drones equipped with the most advanced ultrasonic sensors and thermal cameras available. These machines did not just photograph the surface, they used sound waves to see through concrete layers several feet thick. They scanned every millimeter of cracking and checked the condition of every steel bar buried deep inside the core of the tower. The investigation results showed that thousands of tons of steel in the highest completed floors had been severely oxidized. That meant if construction continued without treatment, the entire structure could enter a state of instability. There was no other choice. The engineers were forced to replace or treat the damaged steel with special anti-corrosion chemicals before they dared let the tower rise any higher. The moment the reinforcement process was completed, the construction site entered a completely different state. A nearly unimaginable building rhythm began. Every 3 days, 1 new floor was completed. To put that into perspective, ordinary high-rise buildings need from 10 to 15 days just to finish 1 floor slab, but here, that entire process was compressed into only 72 hours. That speed was so extreme that it immediately triggered controversy around the world. Because constructing at a height of more than 980 feet under powerful winds at that kind of pace is not only a technical challenge, but also an enormous risk for both the workers and the structure itself. Many experts began asking the question, is this a breakthrough in technology and management, or simply a reckless attempt to recover lost prestige? But in reality, speed is still not the most frightening part. Because the true challenge only begins when the tower passes the 600-meter mark and approaches the limit humanity has never reached before: 1 kilometer. Building a tower as tall as 1,000 meters is a problem that ordinary materials cannot solve. According to the laws of physics, if the entire tower were built from concrete from the bottom all the way to the top, the structure would become too heavy and crush itself under the pressure of its own weight. So in order to reach the 1 kilometer mark, the engineers had to make a revolutionary change in structural materials. When the tower reached around the 160th floor, the engineers made a very bold decision: stop using concrete entirely for the upper section. Instead, they switched to ultralight, ultra-strong steel, the kind of material usually seen only in the aerospace industry. As a result, the weight of the uppermost section dropped significantly, reducing the enormous pressure pressing down on the foundation and the concrete core below. But then a new problem emerged. As the building rises higher and becomes lighter, it also becomes extremely sensitive to wind. At the height of the clouds, desert winds carry terrifying force that can violently shake and snap any rigid structure. Jeddah Tower has a Y-shaped design with sharp edges. This design is not decorative. Its purpose is to split powerful wind currents apart, preventing the formation of vortex streams that could create resonance and bring the tower down. This tower does not stand still and fight the wind in a brute force way. It is designed to bend actively with the force of the wind. The top of the tower can sway back and forth by as much as about 8 feet without cracking or breaking. A central computer system controls giant damping masses inside the structure to cancel out these vibrations so that the people inside do not feel dizzy or afraid. But standing firm against the wind is still only half the battle, because the tower's enormous weight is also threatening to drive the foundation down into the loose desert sand below. When completed, Jeddah Tower will have a total weight of nearly 1 million tons. Placing an object equal in weight to a small mountain on top of desert sand is an act of engineering that challenges nature at the highest level. Without a special foundation solution, the tower would sink down or tilt to one side in a very short time. To solve this, humans carried out the deepest intervention into Earth's crust ever attempted for a civilian construction project. The engineers drove a total of 270 giant friction piles into the ground to a depth of 110 meters. To help you picture that, the depth of this foundation is equal to a 30-story building lying completely underground. These piles do not rely only on anchoring into hard rock. They also use the enormous friction force between the pile surface and the surrounding layers of sand and soil to keep the tower standing. However, the geology beneath the desert is always shifting and is never perfectly stable. So the engineers installed thousands of pressure sensors deep inside the foundation. An artificial intelligence system monitors the settlement and movement of every single pile every second in real time. If one pile sinks even 1 millimeter deeper than the others, the system issues an immediate warning. At that moment, the engineers use an extremely intelligent weight adjustment method by moving millions of liters of water between giant storage tanks on different sides of the tower to rebalance the center of gravity. This is a battle of minds between human intelligence and the constant instability of geology. Once the foundation was brought under control, another problem immediately appeared. How can humans survive and live normally at an altitude where oxygen levels and air pressure begin to change noticeably? Jeddah Tower is not simply an office building or a hotel. It is designed to become a vertical city with every service fully built in. However, operating a city at a height of 1 kilometer demands engineering solutions never seen before. The first challenge is the elevator system. In ordinary skyscrapers, steel cables are used to pull the elevators. But at a height of 1,000 meters, a steel cable becomes too long and too heavy. It would snap under its own weight before it could ever lift the cabin to the top. The solution to this problem is ultra-rope technology. This is a cable made from ultra-light, ultra-strong carbon fiber. It allows the elevator to run all the way from the ground to the top of the tower without needing to stop at intermediate transfer stations. The speed of this elevator reaches more than 12 meters per second, which means you can travel from the basement to the clouds in less than 2 minutes. However, that comfort comes with an extremely expensive ecological price. To pump domestic water up to a height of 1 kilometer and maintain the massive air conditioning system, this building requires an amount of electricity equal to the daily consumption of an entire small town. Building the tallest object in the world like this also changes the climate conditions of the surrounding area. The giant reflective glass panels surrounding the tower absorb huge amounts of heat from the sun and radiate it back into the space around them, creating continuous upward streams of hot air. This forms a localized low-pressure zone around the tower, causing unusual gusts of wind right at the base of the structure. The most shocking feature is the observation deck on the 157th floor. This is a giant steel disc projecting completely out into space, with no supporting columns beneath it. Standing there, you will not only see the full sweep of the desert, but even the curvature of the Earth itself. But behind that overwhelming view, this tower is sending a troubling message about the future of humanity. The fact that humans are building a tower as tall as 1 kilometer is not simply about showing off technology or wealth. It reveals something larger. We are gradually running out of room on the ground and beginning to search for ways to rise into the sky. If Jeddah Tower truly succeeds, after so many years of delay, it will open a new era, one in which towers 2 kilometers high, or even taller, are no longer impossible. In other words, this may be the first step into an age where humans no longer live only on the ground, but also live vertically, suspended in the air. We are beginning a forceful and unprecedented invasion of the sky. But the problem is that the price is not small. To build each additional meter higher, the amount of material and energy required does not just increase, it rises exponentially. The higher we go, the harder everything becomes, the more expensive it becomes, and the more resources it consumes. Steel, concrete, water, electricity, all of it is being spent on a colossal scale just to push the physical limit a little farther. This is not only a race of technology, but also an extraordinarily expensive race, one that may create serious environmental consequences we still do not fully understand. Even more dangerously, successes like this may cause humanity to believe that we can completely control nature through technology. But is that really true? After 7 years in frozen suspension, Jeddah Tower is now rising again. But what is being raised is not only concrete and steel, it is also humanity's ambition to control the world, the ambition to rise higher, reach farther, and accept no limits at all. We still do not know for certain whether cloud cities like this will lift civilization to a new height or become the starting point of a collapse when humans try to exceed the limits of the very planet they live on. Right now, the tower is still growing taller day by day in the desert, and the whole world is waiting to see whether this will become a symbol of glory or a costly lesson for the future. If you found this video interesting, do not forget to like and follow the channel so you do not miss the next exciting content.